Hello, and welcome to Bake to the Future. In today's episode, we're diving into Baking Works, the platform dedicated to showing the world the diverse career opportunities in the commercial baking industry and supporting efforts to make commercial baking a top choice for job seekers. The commercial baking industry plays a central role in the everyday lives of millions of Americans, whether it's the morning English muffin or biscuit we enjoy, the cake we celebrate with, or the sandwich we pack for lunch. Beyond filling our grocery store shelves and cafeterias, the industry also offers careers rooted in purpose, skill, and community. Nearly 800,000 people across the U.S. have found roles in baking, jobs that range from production and quality assurance to logistics, sales, marketing, finance, and more. Baking Works connects bakers and suppliers with potential talent. And now, the American Bakers Association is taking this mission to the next level through a strategic collaboration with the CAPS Network. This exciting initiative will connect high school students nationwide, introducing them to the possibilities of a career in baking and positioning our industry as a destination workplace for emerging talent. Think of it as building a stronger America with one baked good, one job opportunity, and one inspired student at a time. Joining me to break it all down are Corey Mohn, President and Executive Director of the CAPS Network, Nate Clayberg, Business and Industry Director of the CAPS Network, and Eric Dell, President and CEO of the American Bakers Association. Nate, Corey, Eric, can each of you introduce yourselves to our audience and share a bit about your backgrounds?
Nate, you want to start us off?
Yeah, let's go for it. So it's great to be here. I always get a little hungry when I join in this group with what's available out there, and I'm learning more and more every day of the engagements I've already had with.
I hope it's a baked good. You're getting hungry.
Of course. We'll talk about the journey of the donut project I have in progress right now here in a little bit. But Nate Clayberg, like I said, Business Industry Director, CAPS Network. I'm based in Northeast Iowa near Cedar Falls, Iowa. Background is not necessarily education, but primarily economic development, workforce development. Been with the CAPS Network primarily for the last 2 years in a national role, but began my career, if you will, or CAPS career, back in Cedar Falls, Iowa, when they said, hey, can you help us make connections between business and industry in the Cedar Valley? And I said, sure, let's do it. And the rest is history. So that brings us to where we're at here and see how we can keep the journey going.
Great. With that, Corey, do you want to share how you became President and Executive Director of CAPS?
Well, we don't have time for that whole story, but I will tell you, it's an honor to be here. And this partnership is, while it's relatively young, is incredibly exciting and inspiring. And we've got big dreams for the potential. So similar to Nate, my background is more on the business side of the table than the education side. I had the great fortune of being selected to come into a program in the Kansas City area that was, as it turns out, the original program implementing this model of CAPS, which is a profession-based learning model, and got to see the world of education, both from the inside of it, but still with my perspective coming from the outside, and saw what incredible potential there is, primarily because students don't, unless their parents are involved in an industry and are very intentional about sharing with their kids, students don't have a line of sight to all of the various opportunities that are out there for them. And this is going to be a great opportunity to help figure that out. So we're excited about it. And it's a great organization and a great effort to be a part of.
Great.
Kicking it to Eric.
I'll close the loop here if you want, Anne, on our introductions. Eric Dell, President and CEO of the American Bakers Association. I have been with the American Bakers Association for the past 3 years, roughly. Previous to that, worked in the association world for 10 years in the food and beverage side with an association that represented vending machine owners and operators. And previous to that, Capitol Hill, congressional office for many years on Capitol Hill. So DC background. I'm really excited about this partnership with Corey and Nate, the CAPS program. This really came about following a visit out to the Kansas City program that you have in your location in the Kansas City area, which is so impressive. And the students actually are the most impressive part, I think. I'm sure you would agree with that. But I just think we heard time and time again as our board was working through our strategic plan around Destination Workplace was it's wonderful to be reaching out to colleges and universities and tech schools and so forth, but we need to reach out to the potential talent pools that are in high school, because if we don't reach them in high school, we're losing them a great opportunity. So here again, excited about this and look forward to talking through it.
Absolutely. Well, Corey, you started to touch on this a little bit, but can you share what is the CAPS network and how is it connecting students to these career opportunities?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very passionate about this, so I'm going to be highly intentional to summarize for your audience. But really, think of the network as a collaboration between educators across the country, all of which these are educators who are disrupting the status quo. They're innovating, they're trying new things. And many of them feel like they're on islands because they're one of just a handful, or maybe they're the only one in their school district or school that's pushing that envelope on behalf of their students. And so we built this network to allow for the programming that we provide, the framework that we have created, which we call profession-based learning. And the simplest way to understand it is we essentially tee up students to be consultants to industry. And what we mean by that is they're not just learning about the industry or shadowing or visiting on a site to see what it is. They're actually taking an item off of the to-do list of an industry partner, and they're learning by working through the process and providing their insights and creating ROI. And so it's incredibly dynamic and fun. We've seen it in lots of different industries, but certainly in the food area and all of the various underlying industries, with engineering and logistics and all the various components of it when you come to something like the baking industry or other food industries. And yeah, our job really is just to inspire others to make this leap, because we know it's important not just for the students and their self-discovery, but for our future workforce.
Absolutely. And it's so important to inspire high school students at that age. Nate, can you talk a little bit more about that, on how you're helping inspiring high school students to think about industries like baking?
Yeah, when I talk to students and through some career exploration conversations, I always say, what's the occupation that all of you know the most about? And I'll hear, it might be a parent's job or just something they have an interest in, but I'll be like, where else have you been for 13 years, 7 hours a day, 180 days a year? And they say teacher. And it's like, what a teacher is. So, we only know what we know, what our parents do, what's happening in our communities. A lot of times we don't even know the jobs that are happening out there. And, my background, primarily my specialty in economic development, was existing business. So I would go into all sorts of companies, manufacturing plants, talk to the C-suite and managers, and you walk the plant, you walk the building, you start learning about all these opportunities that are happening right in your own community. And when I got involved in Cedar Falls and had our very first, project, that's, if you go to experience.work, and there's a step stool project from Crichton Engineer Metals that doesn't sound sexy, but it sure had an impact on a young man who redesigned a step stool for a cryogenic freezer. And all of a sudden, the company started offering him internships and then offered him a full-time job and paid for half of his college education in the process. And I went, okay, this is a workforce retention program. This kid would have left Northeast Iowa, went on to somewhere else, probably a bigger name engineering type company or manufacturer, and he would have left the Cedar Valley in his rearview mirror. And it's like, okay, we've got to showcase more of what's out there. So when we get into baking, and you can bring up baking and automatically, and this is where the mindset we're having this conversation, I don't want to just talk to your culinary students. I mean, when you look at I talked earlier about the journey of the donut. I had this conversation with an instructor in Cedar Falls here recently. And it's like, if you look at when that flour is milled to when I'm holding that package of frosted donuts in my hand that I just got at the convenience store, how many jobs were involved in that? From the design, the data, data science too, food science and logistics, and there's legal in there, there's marketing, there's clerical, there's HR. You go on the list, and these are these areas we're going to start identifying. And actually, I gave a project to them to challenge is, let's map the journey of the donut and what jobs, what traits are through that. And that's something we're going to be sharing through baking.works once we get that more developed. And then we transpire that into these, career recipes, to use a pun, I guess. There's a lot of baking puns we could get into, and Corey's told me to slow down on the puns because I just get out of hand sometimes. Or they just get burnt. Or two, they rise too much, or I could keep going. But anyway, you look at a job, it's like, well, how do I get there? And that's what we're trying to do is, first off, let's showcase these jobs. Let's look at this as an industry. And you may or may not have a baking industry in your community, but many do, and they just don't know it, or even regionally. So if you don't know anything about something, you're not going to look at it. And primarily that's what we're doing is on the exposure piece.
Well, and what you said, Nate, when you were talking about Baking Works and kind of that journey and the different opportunities and jobs in the commercial baking industry from start to finish, right? And they're in every community across the country. So you mentioned Iowa, someone in Iowa. There's going to be a job in the commercial baking industry in their area in Iowa. It's some part of the process of that donut making or a bread baking or those kind of job opportunities. And Baking Works is really that bridge. It's a great word. It really is that bridge for those job seekers to reach into commercial baking sector and learn what jobs are available. Bakingworks.org. We have all this information is available if you go to that location on our website. But really, our mission is to identify the potential talent pools through the CAPS network, connect them to jobs and our commercial bakers. And not only commercial bakers, but also, Nate, you touched on this a little bit, but it really is about connecting them to those industry leaders in the equipment manufacturing side, the engineering side, the milling side. It goes the full gamut. And I think this partnership is going to be important. Baking Works is important as that bridge, as I said, for folks to go to the website and find out what those jobs are in production, food safety, engineering, sales, marketing, legal, as you point to, Nate, sanitation, shipping, logistics, trucking. It's just so broad in terms of opportunities. So we're excited. I think the CAPS network, from what I saw in Kansas City, is the right platform to be that bridge and help us. Our board identified one of our strategic goals of being the destination workplace, the industry, commercial baking industry being the destination workplace. So we're working on that, and that's one of the main reasons for this partnership. But I just think we're off to a great start. There's lots of opportunities. It's just getting that story out there to the right folks around the country and telling that story and telling of the opportunities. What I find, I'm sure you hear this word all the time because you work with high school students. Especially the younger generations are looking for that purpose-driven job. They're not just looking to go hit the clock from 9 to 5. They're looking for something with purpose to give back. And if in the commercial baking side, if you can really emphasize what you're baking, the purpose of that baking, that's food and nourishment for folks. So, it's just a great story for the end product that you're baking for nourishment in America.
You touched on Baking Works, Eric, and when Christy and I were first having this conversation, and we're coming up almost a year since you guys visited the Kansas City area and Blue Valley Caps, and then being able to be at Nexus in DC, and then be able to be, I was at a conference in February where we talk about this stuff, and that's where we first started kind of moving the needle on this. But Baking Works, it's a great site, but it's like when we were looking at our experience.work site that showcases how industry and education can come together, it was just like the light bulb moment this is where it's at, is it Baking Works, it's out there. Let's upgrade this and evolve it. Because Eric, I don't know about you, but coming 6 to 9 to 12 months, what that's going to be like and the interaction that can happen there. It's exciting where it could be going, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Corey, any other partnerships that you have like this currently, or is this the first of its kind? We're excited, obviously, for the partnership, but what do you, what else do you do in this space with other industries, or is this a first?
For sure. Well, there's definitely some unique aspects to this partnership, Eric, and part of the reason we're so excited about it is we think it can actually be a really intriguing model that flips the way other industry partners think about what they're doing and their strategies, because there are a lot of outdated strategies around workforce development that just haven't evolved with the changing times. And we do. So from a CAPS network standpoint, we do have other national and global partnerships in industry. They all look a little bit different. So we've got a great partnership currently in the engineering space, for example. It tends to be more civil engineering related as opposed to the engineering that may be playing out inside the baking world. We've got some healthcare partnerships. But again, depending on the industry, how those play out and what makes the most impact is going to vary. In fact, it's interesting. I was earlier today playing tour guide, and it was around one of our healthcare partners. And really, the impetus there is it's also workforce development, but it's how do you create the access points within the systems, because those systems are so tight, right? There's privacy concerns. There's all kinds of reasons. Obviously, keeping sanitary conditions, for saying no to giving students access to things. So that's really where the focus was there. But bottom line, this partnership is unique in the sense that you're a national association, and the kind of the thinking here is in many ways next level as far as what we're trying to accomplish. And I love the term, the destination workplace. I wrote that down. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome. What a great goal to strive for and to frame the thinking.
It is. And then you kind of touched on this a little bit of how do people get involved? What's the first step that educators or employers that are listening in, what step can they take to get involved in these type of efforts to engage high school students?
Well, I'll just start briefly, and Nate is going to certainly have some commentary here. The thing for me is everyone can make a step. A lot of times when you're on the employer side of this equation, it's really easy because everyone's super busy. We all have priorities. We've got our list of things we need to accomplish. I think most humans are well-intentioned and want to help out, but what we don't always realize as a professional is it's not just about doing something good in a community or for your school and your neighborhood. It's actual ROI potential for you. And, oh, by the way, it's super fun when you get involved and you actually have students that are interested in what you do for a living, and they have really innovative and creative ideas because they haven't put the system knowledge in that then blocks your view of what's possible. And so you get these a few of them become just kind of zany ideas that never land, but you also within that get the really breakthrough ideas that others can't see anymore. And so I always just say, make the next step and know that the first step can be relatively simple. It can be just come in and walk around a space where this stuff is happening. You don't even have to have an obligation. Just show up and say hi to folks and just get curious. It could be guest instruction in a classroom. And then ultimately, the thing that has broken down the barrier around traditional thinking, which is everybody, if you're going to connect in some kind of profession-based or work-based learning experience, what we're talking about is internships, right? So that's not it. That's not everything. That's not, we would say, the primary thing. Find something on your to-do list, hand it off to students and their instructor who's kind of their support, and then you can step away and let them crank on it. You don't have to be burdened with supervising their time, and let them see what they come up with. And that's a great way to get started. Nate, I know you've got lots of thoughts on this.
Well, it goes both sides, on that question of how do you, if industry and business people or people in industry, I guess industry are interested, it's, how do you engage with what we're doing? And, I'd send you to experience.work and review what's out there of how to engage in profession-based learning. What's that mean? There's a contact piece on there that I will end up getting an email to circle back. Corey kind of touched on the educator piece of it, of how to connect in and how to reach out to the CAPS network. Even from your membership point, at bakingworks.org, there's a contact form that I think ends up in probably Christina's inbox or somewhere along the line. I know we're working on a new form for that can have some more action to it. But, It's just bringing exposure more to this. And, I know this is should be coming out right before IBIE. Come see us. Come talk to us in the Baking Works booth at the Convention Center at IBIE. Let's set some time. Let's figure out what some next steps could be. You talked about the destination workplace, and when I hear employers or industries talk about that, I'm like, you guys get it. It's not just how do I solve my workforce challenge right now. Your workforce challenge is going to also exist in 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 years. And how are you planting the seeds to grow that, to fill those roles? And that's where it comes in. Those are relationships that we're building, or we already have in communication that I did some surveying on of how do we best showcase these type of job opportunities to those adults that are influencing these students. And I'm talking about counselors, teachers, parents, coaches. What can we give them in what format that someone says, I just saw this thing about the baking industry and all these jobs, hey, Eric, you should check this out. Because a student walks into a counselor's office and is interested in engineering, good at math, played with Legos in the Rocket Club. They say, all right, you should just go on to engineering and go work at a major manufacturer in auto or ag or somewhere. And they forget about, the technology and all that stuff's happening in your memberships organizations, Eric, that are out there that would
Absolutely.
just blow people's minds. And that I told Corey that last week. I go, I'm looking forward to getting on the floor and seeing some of this stuff at IBIE. That's just going to blow my mind as far as how what it can do and how efficient in the technology, and now where AI is in all this. So,
well, I think one of the things I would add is this industry is so family focused and built upon family businesses, and it's about a career. It's about helping the students get a career, not just a job, for long term. And folks who are in the baking industry usually stay around their entire career, from what I've seen. So great opportunities, like I said, for not just a job, but a career. And if you've got that commitment, the dedication, the drive to want to do more and better yourself and have meaningful work, I think the baking industry is the perfect location. And there are just so many opportunities that we've talked about. And I'm excited about what we're seeing here with the CAPS Network and Baking Works and ABA and IBIE. For those of you, if anyone is not registered, there's still time. BakingExpo.com. Come out and see us in Vegas. We will all be there at the booth waiting to help educate folks. And we'll have students there too, Nate and Corey. As you know, there'll be students there who can come by and see the booth, as well as employers. So we're really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great show.
Amazing.
Absolutely. And thank you all for your insights. For those listeners interested in learning more, check out our website at bakingworks.org for more information. And like Eric said, whether you're a student or an employer, take a time and come visit us at the Baking Works booth at IBIE. We'll be in the North Hall, booth number 6566. If you're a member of the American Baker Association, we'd love to hear from you. If you're a prospective member or job seeker looking to learn more, we encourage you to reach out as well. Email membership@americanbakers.org anytime to get connected to the ABA team. Let us know what you thought of the show by emailing hello@americanbakers.org. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
As Nate would say, let's keep this momentum rising. So